All right, everybody, this is Streepey from Gypsy Rain Organics down in Gordon, Indiana. He is going to give a class on getting your garden ready for the winter. And without further ado, we'll let Tad take it away. You guys are in for a treat.
Thanks. How's it going, everybody? Good morning. I got saddled with waking everybody up this morning, I guess. Like Chase said, my name's Tad. I own Gypsy Rain Organics down in Gordon. Veteran, father of 3. Wife is a pretty amazing lady. She couldn't make it here today. She's at home sick, unfortunately. But yeah, like he said, I'm gonna kind of talk to you all about what we do at Gypsy Rain Organics to get all our garden beds ready for the winter to be, in a good spot for the next spring. A little background about our farm. This is just our 3rd year being an actual business, an LLC. But I grew up on a homestead. We ended up buying the farm that's right next to my parents, where I grew up, and so I've kind of been in the gardening game for a good portion of my life. At our farm, I guess we are considered a market farm because we do a lot with going to farmers markets, and we have a CSA and everything. But whenever I think about market farms, I think about the farms that I follow that are, 2 or 3 times the size that we are, doing the same thing that we do. But the way our farm and beds are set up, everything's set up on 30-inch beds. It's kind of the standard for market farms. A lot of your tools that you're gonna get are based on that 30 inches, whether it's broad forks or rakes or tithers or whatever. They're gonna be some increment of that 30 inches. So that's kind of just for ease of everything. On our farm, that's how we do all our beds. The first thing that we do, because I know most people, our farm is a little bit different than probably some of your farms in that there's only about 3 months out of the year that we don't have crops growing in our beds. We'll be having fresh salads for Thanksgiving dinner. So what some people do is a little bit different from what we do, but everything still pretty much applies. The first thing, obviously a lot of people, they plant their gardens in the spring and some in the summer, and by the time fall rolls around, they've pretty much given up on it, and it's taken over by weeds and everything else because a lot of other stuff on the farm took precedence over weeding all your garden beds. So the first thing that we always do is go out there and get every bit of crop residue or weed residue that we can by hand. Just go out there with buckets or whatever, containers, and just start pulling everything out of the beds that we can. I don't like to say we're no-till because we do still have to till some of our beds that are newer plots. But we're very low-till. At most, we till once a year, and that would be in the winter. Getting all that crop residue, all the weed residue, it's only gonna help you the next year because all those weed seeds are gonna sit there in your soil and just be ready to bust out the following year in the spring. So you're gonna be, if you don't get it out this year, you're just gonna be fighting it again next year. So once we get all that out of the bed, we take our prep rake, which is this guy right here. Probably one of the most useful tools that we have because it serves quite a few different purposes. But it's really good for, it's 30 inches wide, so you just drag it down through there, and that gets any loose crop or weed residue that you would have had. Break that down to the bottom of the bed, scoop it up, and that's out of there. It's the more that you can get out of there, obviously the better. After we do that, that's when this guy right here comes out. That's probably my worst enemy and one of my best friends on our farm. It's what's called a broad fork. And if you're doing low till or no till, this is the only and best way that I know of to break up that hard pan that's under that, few inches of good topsoil. Especially here in Indiana, as a lot of you know, especially in southern Indiana, we have a lot of clay in our soil. And the longer you let that sit there without disturbing it, it gets harder and harder and harder until there's, practically nothing will penetrate it. On a no-till farm, the best way to get down to that hard pan and break it all up without destroying all your microbiology, and it also creates avenues for all your nutrients, water, everything to get down lower and start conditioning all that hard pan that's underneath your good topsoil. We have about a little over an acre in production. So breaking all that up with one of these it gets tedious, but it's, like I said, it's the only way to really get that hard pan broke up without using a tiller or a plow. After we do that, we usually get the prep rake out again, rake it again. That kind of gets topsoil down into where you created those avenues with the broad fork. And I don't know if anybody's ever used one of these things, but all you do is you step down on it until you're about 3/4 of the way up the tines and rock it back. So it lifts that whole hard pan up and lets everything get up underneath that hard pan. After we do that, we rake again, making sure anything that we loosened up that we don't want there, we get out of there. After that, that's when what a lot of people do and what we do is it could be different. Depending on when you're putting your beds to sleep, we usually do compost on our beds. We're getting to the point now where we're going to start using a lot more cover crops, but our beds go to sleep so late that a lot of cover crops even winter cover crops don't have enough time to get to maturity so that whenever you terminate them, they've done the work that they're supposed to do. So most of the time we just do all these steps and then put compost on top. After we do the broad fork, we do use our fertilizer. We've got a fertilizer that, and you'll be hearing from him soon, Dirk Smith. I think he's doing a rabbit processing class. But he's got a really good product and a business that he's getting off the ground, and he sells a granulated chicken manure, organic chicken manure, that is amazing stuff. Every time we do turnovers in our bed or put our beds to sleep or whatever, we're always spreading that stuff on our beds. Once we spread the fertilizer, that's when we get our tiller out, which is this guy. Like a tiller, only on a smaller scale, it's only going to get down into that top inch and a half of topsoil just to mix in any of your amendments. And it doesn't, instead of using the tiller, which whenever you till, you're going down, 6-8 inches a lot of times, you're bringing up all those weed seeds that have gone dormant underneath your soil. It'll kill, whatever seed or whatever weeds you've got sprouted on top, but in a month you're just fighting all new weeds because you brought all those new weed seeds up from underneath. With the tithers, you're only ever doing that top inch. So there's, you know, most of your weed seeds are going to sprout out of that top inch of topsoil. So if you're only ever mixing that top inch up, you're not bringing any new weed seed up. So you can have a lot easier time fighting all your weeds. Once we add our fertilizer, our chicken manure, then that's when we would usually do our soil test this time of year. Send our soil samples off to lab, see exactly where we're at. Most of the time we're pretty good. The things that we look for whenever we get our soil test back is more the micronutrients. Especially if we've had beds that have grown the same type of crop in multiple years, it's going to deplete a lot of certain micronutrients. So you want to make sure that you're keeping all that stuff in balance. The other thing that, and like I said, this is a lot of time when people would plant cover crops. We're just now getting into where we can close down plots and leave them dormant for a year to recover from growing, and get a good rotation of all our crops through all of our plots. So we don't do a whole lot with cover crops yet, but we're getting there. The ones that we're really looking into are a lot of the vetch and the winter wheat, just because that's when we're going to be putting a lot to sleep is in the winter, and the vetch is really good for mining nitrogen. It goes deep, pulls up nitrogen to the top, you terminate it, and then you've got all that nitrogen for your plants the next year to feed on. The other thing that people do is, instead of putting compost in the winter, they'll cover with tarps. You never want to leave your beds exposed for very long. Between the elements, wind, rain, everything else, any of your fertilizers or anything that you're putting on the top that you're not mixing in or anything like that, you're going to get a lot of runoff from it. It's either the weeds are going to come up in it and just eat up everything that all your amendments that you put in there, or you're going to get a lot of runoff and it's going to be somewhere else other than in your garden. When you put a tarp over it, it keeps those weed seeds from sprouting, and it keeps a lot of the elements from hitting it and dispersing all your good stuff everywhere else other than in your garden. The last thing that we really do, like I said, is adding the compost. Once you add the compost, we just rake it out one more time, making sure everything's flat. And after that, that's pretty much it's been put to sleep. And then so the following year, really all we have to do is run the tither through it one good time and mark out our rows, and we're planting it. Getting as much prep work as you can done in the winter, it just makes everything so much easier in the spring when everything is already as stressful as it can be, because you're working as hard and as fast as you can to get all your crops out, keeping everything going and getting prepped for the whole growing season. So everything that you can do to have your beds ready to be planted in that following spring is always a good idea. Anybody got any questions? Yeah.
I have a high time.
Okay.
Would this same process work in a high tunnel?
Absolutely. The thing that you have to worry about in high tunnels is nutrient buildup. Because you're not getting the rain and everything that disperses all that naturally. Just be careful with how much and what you're adding inside your tunnels, because you can get some pretty big buildup, and then it's actually from what I've understood and read, it's a lot easier if you've got depleted minerals than if you've got an overabundance of them, because then you have to bring everything else back up to that one thing's level to get everything evened out. So that's just something to be careful. But yeah, everything that I've said still applies to high tunnels.
Where do you get your soil tested at?
Look up the name. It's a lab in Missouri. On a blank right now. But I'll look it up for you. I'll get the name for you.
I know you're Purdue Extension on.
Yeah, Purdue Extension Office, they'll get it done for you too.
I know Green Kentucky, the extension on. So I have a question, is that runoff off the,
Yeah.
screwdriver?
Yeah, drill.
I took a picture of that.
It's run off of a battery powered drill.
Wow, did you make that?
No, I wish. I'd be a lot richer.
Looks like an Amish get up.
Yeah, so this one, a lot of the tools that I use are from a guy that I follow really closely, owns Never Sink Farms. So a lot of my tools are Never Sink Farm tools. He developed this one. Another place that I get a lot of my tools from, and they developed a tiller also, is Johnny Select Seed. That's where I get a lot of my seed from, but they also have a really good filter, and a lot of, well, like this rake, my prep rakes are all from Johnny's tools.
Can you use the rake that's for, like, you call them for cement or landscaping rake that has a flat bar on the other side? I have one of those.
I'm sure you could, yeah. But see, so one of the other things that we use these prep rakes for is we do kind of intensive planting in our beds. So, like, for instance, for beets, we'll have 5 rows of beets in a 30-inch bed. So, I've got pieces of PEX plastic, they're cut about that long. And so if we're doing 5 rows, I'll space 5 of those on this rake, pull it down through my bed, and that creates all my lines for where I'm planting my.
You put the pipe on that?
Yeah, you put the pipe on the tines. So I'll have like one here, one here, one here, one here, one here.
Oh, that's fabulous.
So then you drag it through there, and you make your lines that way, go on the side, go that way, and it creates your grid where you can plant
That's fabulous.
on your.
So
It's just a real simple, easy way to grid off your beds and keep your rows straight.
30 by 30?
So our beds are either 30 by 50 or 30 by 100. It just makes it easier for whenever we're like cutting our insect covers or whatever we're using for our low tunnels. So we've only got 2 sizes.
Now, with that thing, when you're starting out and you don't have too much of a base, can you break those in? Because we have horrible clay.
Yeah, so yes, you can. Don't try to do it in the middle of summer because that's not going to happen. But I will tell you, like the girl that works for me, Stephanie, she's about 105 pounds soaking wet. So it's a lot harder for her because you have to have some weight to get it down in there. But once you stand on top of it, and you stand on top of it and kind of rock it back and forth, it works its way down.
Ours was so bad, I could put my hand out and cracks when we didn't have no rain.
Oh yeah.
I just haven't, I'm really frustrated because we've been here 6 years and I have a garden grow and I found out that we had some tobacco raised on our property and fertilizers were in there.
Are bad.
So how do you get that out or how do you like?
Start building on top. You're gonna have to build on top. Just start composting on top and
Raised beds.
Well, you don't even necessarily need to use raised beds, but don't till it in, don't plow it in. Just you're gonna have to layer compost on there pretty thick and just be doing that compost. And And I would do that for a couple of years before you start trying to incorporate any of the topsoil that you had there into that compost. Yeah, because if your soil's that bad, you're just gonna have to start building on top of it.
It'll grow beautiful, and then the rock at the bottom, like it's, everything rots from the bottom. And
Yeah, because then your roots are getting deep enough to where it's
and it's,
all that.
it's that one pesticide that starts with a G.
Glycophosphate.
And it must be what they put on tobacco because
That's the Roundup.
Can I get a question back here?
Yeah.
Since you're harvesting, are you just doing monocropping those crops, or do you ever do companion plants?
No, we do all kinds of companion planting. We don't have any kind. What you see right here is pretty much the tools in our arsenal, with the exception of the trays that we use to germinate seeds. We don't plant anything mechanically. We don't do monocropping. The way we do our rotation is plant families. So like half of one plot will be all nightshades, and legumes in one area. So we rotate blocks of plants to different plots. We do a lot of companion planting with a lot of different herbs, a lot of different flowers. In all our plots have beneficial and pollinator beds in them. We do a lot for the biggest one that we try to make beneficial beds for are a lot of wasps. The wasps are going to be your biggest friend in your garden because they go after a lot of your cutworms that are going to destroy a lot of your crops. But yeah, we do a lot with companion planting. Marigolds are a big one for us, and a lot of basil. We do about 8 different kinds of basil. A lot of dill. But yeah, we do a lot with companion planting. Because we don't use any, we're 100% organic. We don't use any pesticides or herbicides. And it does get tricky. We have to do a lot with beneficial nematodes. We have to do a lot with row covers. Harlequin beetles and flea beetles are probably my 2 biggest nemesis. They're impossible. The harlequin beetles are about impossible with anything organic, and the flea beetles are just they're everywhere. Until I started growing some of the newer greens that we grow now, I never had a problem with them. But they love the Asian greens, arugula, stuff like that. They go crazy for it. Yeah, and that's the other thing that they love is the eggplant. For whatever reason, I mean they turn eggplant to Swiss cheese. But yeah, that's what we've had to start growing it under low tunnels, under caterpillar tunnels, to be able to mitigate that, because they're just impossible little suckers to keep off the plants. Anything else? Yeah.
I've been seeing some posts on Facebook where we believe these fish beneficials over winter under the trees.
Yeah, so.
You do that in the garden because so is your pests.
Right.
Address that.
So yes, I don't. Leaf mold is one of the best things you can add to your garden. Yes, putting that in your garden, it will harbor some of those pests, because a lot of those pests will overwinter in your soil, like harlequin beetles and things like that. So putting it in your garden for over the winter is not in my mind, isn't the best idea. But having it out and just leaving the leaves out in your yards and everything, because that's where a lot of your bees, your pollinator bees, with the exception of honeybees and a couple other types, most of them, the entire colony dies off and the queen burrows underground, comes back out and starts laying eggs the following year to create an entirely new colony. So yeah, leaving leaves out in your yard or around your garden, absolutely a good idea. What? Yeah.
I've seen people use cardboard too.
Yeah. Cardboard's great for weed suppression. The problem with cardboard is, and for me, because now if you're not trying to get certified organic, you know, it is what it is. Problem with right now, we're as much of a sham as I think it is, and that's a whole nother discussion. We're trying to get certified organic, so we have to document every single thing that goes in our gardens. So with the cardboard, with the glues that are in it and stuff like that, a lot of that stuff, they're gonna say, no, that's not approved as an organic product. But yeah, cardboard is an awesome way to suppress weeds over the winter. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what I was gonna ask you is, how hard is it to become organic?
It is. You have to keep records for 5 years. But they have to see records for 5 years before you can even think about it. So yeah, we're just on year 1 of the process. So yeah, it really is. It's such a crazy process. And if you look at what our government considers organic, it's like what's the point? But for us, since we are a business, a lot of people like to see that stamp, and because they just in their mind that's what they know. So we're going through the process. And
How many years have you been doing your gardens though, that it was, is it only been a year or?
So the gardens, the one that we've had in production the longest, I've been growing in it for close to 10 years. But I didn't really start thinking about making this a business until about 3 years ago, which is when we LLC'd, and didn't really care about the whole organic, getting approved by the government as far as being organic until last year. So you have to. I didn't keep all those records leading up to that. I had no idea. I was still very new to all of it. So I didn't have all those records to prove that this is what I put in the garden and all that. So yeah, so now we're kind of starting at zero for that process.
Once you're certified, is that it, or do you have to maintain?
Oh no.
Your records?
Oh yeah, it's a constantly ongoing process forever, as far as I know. Because at any point, the government can send a representative to come and do soil tests, see what you're doing, check whatever. If you want to have that stamp, you're pretty much giving the government an open door to come and check out your farm anytime they want. Which I absolutely hate the idea of.
Yeah.
But it's it's what do you do?
Catch-22.
Ted, can you just tell people like what, because you've talked about how you keep the garden going pretty much 9 months out of the 12 month year. You plant a really nice fall garden. I can attest to it. Can you just kind of go over like the things like that you plant for fall and when you roughly plant them that are ending now?
Pretty much everything that we do in the spring, we do in the fall. I really enjoy fall gardening actually more gardening because of you don't have near the pest pressure. The one thing that is a lot harder is getting your timing right, because you know when it's starting to get warm, and it's just going to slowly get warmer and warmer and warmer. So you've got a pretty good idea of when you can put your plants out. Well, it's kind of the opposite in the fall. You have to have your plants at a certain size by the time of the cold, or it's not really the cold, it's the length of day. Once you get under 10-hour day, your plants will maintain in the cold, but they don't really grow in. So you have to have your plants to a certain point by the time you get to that length of day, or they're not going to get any bigger. You're just going to have immature plants that you can't really do a whole lot with. So it gets kind of tricky with your timing, because obviously everything matures at a slightly different rate. So if you're doing something like Brussels sprouts for a fall crop, you're planting those all the way back in, end of July probably. So that you've got a crop when it's first starting to frost, because those things can take 3-4 months to properly get to size. But stuff like our salad mix, our spring mix beds, I mean, you can plant them all the way up into mid-September because they come up so fast. The same with radishes. It's just it all depends on your area and when you think your really cold snaps are going to hit, because obviously you're going to have to do protection. And if when you get under that 10 hours of light, making sure that your plants have enough time to get to size before you get under that. And like I said, if you get them to size and you've got them protected, we've got all kinds of beds that are the plants have done all the growing, pretty much all the growing that they're going to do. But having them under protection, I could keep them out there pretty much all year, especially like some of our winter choy, some of our Chinese cabbages. Let's see, what else? We overwinter some onions. There's quite a few things that you can keep going all year with very minimal protection, and just be that much farther ahead the following spring. Being able to be the first to market with stuff if you're going to farmers markets or anything like that. And it's even better if you've got a high tunnel, which I'm sure we're not there yet. We've got 2 big high tunnels that are pieces on the ground, but right now it's just finding the time to get them up. Yeah. So we're getting there. We're getting close. Anybody else? Yeah.
Is there much of a financial gain to organic? I know people prefer it, but I don't
Yes.
$7 on my food, but
Right. So yes and no. I chose to do the whole organic side of things just because I know how much better it is for the environment, how much better it is for not only everybody that I'm selling it to, but my family's health. It is, so if you do it how we're doing it, the startup cost is quite a bit more, just because you're having to do a lot more with protection and, like I said, beneficial nematodes and stuff like that, whereas conventional farming, you just put herbicides and pesticides on it, and that's all you don't have to worry about doing. But in the long run, I think it really evens out because you can ask a slightly larger price for your product because it is more environmentally sound and better for you. I mean, because you go to the grocery stores and you look at the organic stuff and the price that it's set at, and conventionally grown stuff and the price that it's set at, And it is because, you know, conventional farmers can do it slightly cheaper because their initial startups and you know, everything is cheaper. It's easier to do it that way. But it's not my style. And I do think that, you know, you hear all the time that you can't feed the world organically. I think that's horse crap. I absolutely 100% think that we can. Look at what Amish communities do every year. They've been doing it forever. And farms did it forever before all these crazy pesticides and everything were invented. So it's, what's that?
They lived a lot longer than we.
Oh, absolutely. And you know, a lot of the vegetables that we grow, we're doing a lot of stuff that you'll find in the blue zone diets, from wing beans to African horn cucumbers to jamesite. You know, all these different foods that people might not know about that are grown all over the world and can be grown here. It's just that the conventional farming has got such a foothold in America now that they monocrop everything, and that's what everybody sees in the store, so that's what everybody thinks there is, or what everybody thinks is available. You look down in South America, Peru especially, they grow somewhere in the neighborhood of 75 to 100 different varieties of potatoes. All different colors, all different shapes and sizes, all different nutritional values. And here in America, we know of maybe 4 or 5 that you see every day. And so, you know, like this year we grew a variety it's called the Purple Viking, a purple potato. And people were blown away. They didn't know anything like that even existed. And, you know, so I love doing stuff like that and showing people that the wind beans that we grow, they are the most protein-dense edible plant on earth. If you're vegan or low meat diet, it's an awesome substitute. You can eat the entire plant. The root itself is somewhere around 19% protein. So it's there's so many things, so many different edible vegetables and fruits and everything out there that it's crazy the very narrow scope of produce that we have in America.
Where do you get those seeds, like from bakers or something?
Bakers is a good source for them. Territorial seed is a good one. A lot of my more normal seeds I get from Johnny's just because they usually have a better price on bulk seed, whereas like Baker's Creek, they're more of a specialty stuff. So you're getting a lot less seeds per.
They got some cool stuff.
Oh, they got some really cool stuff. They really are my go-to because pretty much everything that they do is heirloom, and that's where I cut my teeth too, is in heirloom varieties. There's a couple things that we do that aren't heirloom, like there's a spinach variety that does really good for us. It's not an heirloom just because it stands more upright, a lot easier to pick. And
What was the name of the bean? Because I've got some chicken.
the bean that we grow, it's called wing bean. Wing, W-I-N-G.
Tad, you have a question?
Yeah.
Not necessarily a question, but a point to make is that with all of these different foods that we have available to plant, that Andy planted, I think another issue is not just, what's in the stores and what's available, but changing the way we think about the way we cook and feed our bodies too.
Absolutely.
We could grow a wing bean, but it's like, how the heck do I cook that? What do I do with it? What can I do with it? And so
Absolutely.
there's a lot more
And that-
limited information.
Yeah, and that's something that we do with our CSA. Whenever we put in our boxes, we also send an email out to all our CSA customers, and it's got at least one recipe for every item that's in the box. So it helps people, because yeah, we put some weird stuff in there sometimes, like the wing beans or bitter melon, which is another one that probably a lot of people have never heard of, but it is the best natural way to control blood sugar. It's got a compound in it that I know people that have completely gotten off their conventional pharmaceuticals just supplementing with bitter melon. Now, the problem with it is appropriately named. It is the most bitter thing you will ever put in your mouth. So you have to get creative with the way you cook it and putting it in stir fries. And the other way, and Karen Burr, she's going to be here giving a class on foraging and stuff like that. But she came to our farm and did a video, and she pickled, and it's pretty good too. You don't get the bitter taste in it, and it saves all the compound that's really good for you. Anybody else? All right, guys. Oh, yeah.
So my question was, you can section grocery store, you briefly mentioned what our government considers organic might not be 100%. It's actually not. It must be in your consideration when you go to the grocery store. That's not truly organic.
Okay, so here's the problem with that. You have to know the farm that it's coming from, because that organic stamp can be on produce that's never even seen soil. It can be 100% hydroponic and it have that organic certified. To me, hydroponic is the exact opposite of organic. That's the definition of chemically grown, because that's all it is chemicals and water washed across the plant's root. So you have to really, that's a hard question, because without really knowing the farm that it's coming from, if you look at a list of all the herbicides and pesticides that the government has deemed organic, there's pages and stuff that you can't even pronounce. So in my mind, that it's just not organic. Obviously, there are things out there that are not harmful to people that are organic. For instance, neem oil. Neem oil is a good product for organic farmers. One thing about neem oil is, if you're really big into your beneficial bugs, neem oil can do a number on them also. So it's kind of which way you want to go kind of thing. And even with any of those, any organic pesticide, you're gonna be hurting those beneficial bugs that you're trying to harbor. So yeah, to me, unless you know the farm that it's coming from, that organic stamp means very little.
To add to that, also, honey, you go into the store and you see organic raw honey. Organic raw honey can be made up of 85% corn oil, and it still be considered organic raw honey.
Yeah, because you can't control where those bees go.
You have to know where you are buying the product from to know if it is truly organic and truly raw honey. So
Well, and bees can travel up to
five
5 miles away from their hive to forage. So unless you've got a 5-mile circle around you that you know is organic, you got no way of knowing that your honey is 100% organic. Yeah. Do I grow what?
fruit trees.
We do. It's something that we've really started just recently to get into and study. I'm not a big, my knowledge and hands-on experience with fruit trees isn't that great. So I'm in no way an expert on fruit trees yet. Our big push as far as fruit going forward is going to be in berries. We've started our blackberries, elderberries, and blueberries are going to be our big three going forward, and raspberries. I do want to get into the fruit trees a lot more. I'm not there yet. Because we do quail for meat and eggs. We do chickens for eggs. We've started our coon breeding program thanks to Chase here, and we've started our mini Hereford cattle, and we're trying to do bees also. So the fruit trees have kind of been put on the back burner. A lot of projects going on.
Tad, you have another question over here.
Yeah.
So realistically, in your opinion, regarding commercial organic products,
Mm-hmm.
if I were to walk into Walmart and buy a bag of regular green beans and then a bag of what they have labeled as organic green beans, the reality of there being a physical difference between those two, pretty slim.
Absolutely, there is a big difference. The chemicals and everything that the government has said are organic or has deemed okay for an organic farm are far better than what a commercial agricultural farm is
So
going
let
to
me
be.
rephrase the question then.
Okay.
The chance of that organic product that I'm buying
Mm-hmm.
still being cultivated or produced with chemicals is still probably pretty high.
Yes.
Because the true nature of organic is chemical free.
Correct. That is the reason, and like I said, we can get into a whole discussion about this, but that is the reason that I think this whole USDA certified organic is horse crap. Because they have watered down the term so much that it really doesn't mean anything anymore. So it's, saying you're an organic farm, I mean, especially the people like us that know what true organic really is, means something completely different than the average person that goes into JC or whatever Kroger and goes to the organic section and sees all that organic
If I
product.
want to eat a truly chemical-free product, I got
Right.
two choices: grow it myself and buy it from you.
Right.
Basically.
To truly know that your produce is 100% chemical free, you either have to know the farm that you're getting it from or grow it yourself. And that's it sucks that you have to say that, but you really cannot trust labels anymore. To really be 100% truthful they play so many word games now that none of it means anything. So yeah, in my honest opinion, that organic label on there means very little.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys.